What did we get and what we might get in future as the result of these elections that cost quite expensive for the quite poor country, to quote one of the international observers of these elections in Georgia?
In one word, probably uncertainty. That's what we got after the elections. It's said that the political parties are not agreeing about the outcome of the elections, and I think that's important in order for a country to develop in a sustainable manner and to develop its institutions and have a credible policy for all its citizens and international partners.
Yes, and maintain the support that it showed it had from the international financial institutions as well, which was very important in these uncertain times already on the more global level, of course. Giorgi, in the US, for example, what we are looking at, this election, well, to a larger extent, came down to the pandemic and Trump's mishandling of it. What was the effect of COVID-19 on Georgia's elections, in your opinion, if there was one?
Yeah, one fact that we have to notice both for US elections and to some extent in Georgian elections as well, that if some of us thought that maybe because of COVID people will not go to the polling stations and will not actively participate, I don't think that happened to big extent. Of course, there are some groups of people who were affected by self-isolation and being in the hospitals, etc., who probably had hard time to vote, both in Georgia and in US. But I don't think the extent of such effect was huge. The second of all, in Georgia's case, we saw that initially the current ruling party gained quite a momentum during the so-called first wave of the COVID-19 pandemic, when they accumulated quite a lead over the opposition. And that, to some extent, I think, disappeared after the second wave came into effect, which has been much more forceful and has impacted many more people than in the first case. And as for the US, there was no first wave, second wave. There basically was one huge spread of the virus throughout the year, and there was a clear debate whether Trump was handling it correctly or not. In case of Georgia, initially, the critique the government was receiving was, why are we locking down? But then, after opening up the economy, now the critique shifted in terms of healthcare management. Basically, the emphasis shifted from lockdown management to healthcare management.
Probably we could argue that healthcare management on the initial level as well might have made lockdown less severe.
Yeah, we clearly saw that initially, when there was not enough information about the virus, how it was affecting people and the countries, the government of Georgia chose a much safer solution, locking down the economy, which obviously had its impact in terms of virus basically not spreading too much, and it was under control. And then, for obvious reasons, the government had to shift its emphasis on the economic development and basically hoping that it could manage if there is the second wave. But the numbers that we are seeing today are quite overwhelming, and let's hope this situation will be managed efficiently, and we will not have further damage to the lives of Georgians as well as the economy.
Yes. Even though we hear from every level of the government at this point that no major full lockdowns are underway today, we heard we heard from the Prime Minister of Georgia, also the Vice Prime Minister of Georgia, that the main thing now is to reduce mobility, to slow down the spread of the virus, and these targeted measures might become even stricter. Two questions. Do you think this is a wise policy considering the bigger context which we are in right now? And the second, can Georgia's economy handle economic pandemic, so to say?
From the very beginning, starting in March, I think the emphasis should have been on the healthcare and managing the virus, because unfortunately our healthcare system is not well developed in order to handle big spread in the virus cases and explosion in the pandemic. So therefore, yes, we will lose some economic opportunities during the lockdown, but I don't think that's comparable to the lives lost that could be at risk if these numbers that we have today continue. And we have to always keep in mind that going from 10 to 1,000 may take a week, and then going from 2,000 that we have today, like doubling these numbers, is not too hard with the way this virus is spreading, right? So therefore, I don't think Georgia has the luxury not to introduce additional control measures in order to keep the spread of the virus in check, because if it spreads, then we may have to introduce much severe lockdowns, and in that case, the economy will be damaged even more than it's damaged today. The elections played some role in the spread, because pre-elections it's kind of difficult to introduce new measures, to introduce new regulations, because you want. So there are political consideration as well, freedom of speech, etc., and therefore it's a different story. Now, as elections are passed, even though its outcome is not unanimously accepted by all parties, obviously, in Georgia, and that's a pity. But for the next couple months, I think we should expect some additional measures in order to contain the virus.
I understand your point. And Larry also. Larry, and we see all these entire records of the exchange rates against dollar, against euro. We often like to say this phrase that it is a thermometer for the economy, and it reflects facts in the economy, and also expectations of the economy and where we are going in general. Today, Finance Minister blamed opposition rallies for lari depreciation, saying there is no other objective reason for the lari's depreciation at the moment. And this was said during the pandemic, of course. What is your take on that? And where is lari leading us while talking about economy recovery, and also the challenges that we all have during the targeted lockdowns, so to say?
First of all, I want to be very clear on this. There is an expectation in the society and in the market players that before the elections, lari will not depreciate. I'm not claiming that either National Bank of Georgia or the government of Georgia is somehow taking specific measures not to let lari depreciate before the elections. That's not what I'm saying. All I'm trying to emphasize is that there is such expectation in public that lari will not depreciate before the elections, and then it may start depreciating afterwards. This has happened in last couple elections, and I think that's the case in these elections as well. So I don't think that the outcome of the elections is what triggered the depreciation of lari, but the fact that elections are over, that was the key trigger for lari depreciation. And that has been the case in the past, during the past elections as well. Freedom of speech and freedom of people to and of political parties to express themselves is much more valuable than lari in this country or in another country. So the key issue here is whether the elections were handled accurately or not. And I'm not a political pundit to make a decision on that. I don't have an answer on that. But clearly the uncertainty, how the parties have evaluated the outcome of the elections has differed across them, and that obviously adds the uncertainty to the Georgian economy. But I don't think that is to any extent a key driver of the lari depreciation. I don't think anyone should have expected lari not to depreciate in times when basically both internal and external factors are not in our economy's favor. In addition, we have this unexpected surge of cases within Georgia, which may trigger further lockdowns, further measures by the government, which itself will negatively affect Georgia's economic development. And all this is translated into how Georgian economy stands, and lari, in this case, represents its standing.
Very briefly, let us elaborate on the point that you had that is very important, how democracy in this country and its economic prosperity are interrelated.
I think for Georgian economy to develop further, one of the key determinants of our development will be the country's institutional development, and this relates to all the institutions that are in country, and that could be the breakthrough of country's further development. It may not be the tax rates or some regulations, but the institutional development and the freedom of institutions is, I think, one of the keys for future successful development of Georgia.
Yes, and just my million-dollar question, so to say, at the end of our conversation, where is the way out? What should be done in order, not on the one hand, not to have very severe economic condition in the country this year, and to give the ground for the next year's recovery?
Yeah, the reason it's a million-dollar question is because there is no correct answer to that question. And I think it's a judgment call by the government. There is this fine line between ensuring that the virus is managed efficiently. Only government currently has a good idea how much it can allow the virus to spread at the rate that it's spreading right now. What's the capacity in the healthcare system, etc. And then there is the trade-off of opening economy, which I don't have the answer how it should be handled. It's clear that all of us should also take the responsibility, be as careful as possible, and at the same time, government should do everything that's not a very strict lockdown, but all the awareness campaigns or all the minor regulations, which, for example, will incentivize people to wear masks everywhere, not to interact with each other too much, work from home, study from home, not help spreading the virus, but on the opposite, we are the drivers of its decreasing its spread.
Yes, thank you.